Hey all, welcome back to my channel. This is Srini here, and today we are going to talk about a completely masterclass topic that is on Selenium Locators. So this particular session, a tutorial session, is going to cover entire thing from basics. So if you are completely new to Selenium Locators concept, so don't worry, just watch this entire video without skipping any portion, and you will be able to understand the locator, all the different types of locator. I'm not just going to focus on one type of locator. I'm going to try and cover as much as I can in this one video. And I'll ensure that from my end, I'm trying to cover the entire concept of locators in this one session. Okay. And I'm going to help you on how to create your own locator rather than using any other tools to form a locator automatically. This is going to explain you all as to how you can form your own locator and use it in your automation frameworks in whichever company you work for. So if you're new to this channel, please do subscribe to it and hit the bell icon to get notifications. This will motivate me to create more videos. Thank you so much. So let's get started. Okay, so this is going to be our today's topic, masterclass on Selenium locators, and you're going to cover all the concepts on A to Z. Okay, from starting to become a professional in creating your own locator. So let's get on to the practical part. So I've created one document here that is for Selenium locator, and I'll be covering all of these, whatever I mentioned here from scratch. Okay, I'm going to cover all of these from scratch. So I've covered a detailed document as to what all things we're going to cover. First, we are going to look at Selenium locator. We'll cover all these different types of locator. Then we'll come to XPath, and I'm going to cover in detail from start to end of XPath. Then we will be going on to the CSS selector. Okay. So let's start off with the very basic thing as to what is Selenium locator. Okay. So take an example of any particular website, right? So let's say Amazon.in or Flipkart.in. Now, great festival is going on, and a lot of sale is happening around, right? So what do you see on this particular website? You see that there is a home page, right? When anyone lands onto a website, they will be shown the home page. And there is, of course, a sign in page or there is a sign up page. If you are a new customer, you'll sign up. If you're an existing customer, you'll sign in. All of these elements which you see, this images, this hyperlink, this text box, this drop down, all of these are called web elements. Okay. This is a button, etc. So all of these are called web elements. And any particular web page interaction requires you to be able to interact with the web element. So if you are able to interact with the web element and like click on it, typing something on the text box or selecting a value from a drop down, then your automation scripting becomes very easy, because automation scripting is all about sequencing the instructions in a sequential form and then executing it, right? Asking someone to go ahead and execute it. So we are asking our Selenium WebDriver that you please go ahead and execute this automation script. So it will execute it in a step-by-step fashion, and you will be able to get the output. And what is the output we are desiring? We are desiring the application should be automated, right? And nowadays the automation has become so important because we are going away from the traditional approach of manual testing, and we are now automating all the web applications and API web services, right? And with the advent of AI, it has become all the more most important now. Okay, so if you are still in the manual testing field, please do consider switching to automation field right away. This is still the right time. It's not still late, and there are a lot of requirements in the job market today for automation testing still. So you can go for any particular language, but I would say start with Python or Java if you want to get started. Okay, so let's get started to today's topic. So let's say that I want to identify an element with ID. Okay, now ID is basically like an attribute. Okay. I'll take an example and we'll put all the examples in this Word document, and I will be uploading this Word document into my GitHub repository. So please do check it out later on. So let's say that I want to inspect, let's say this text box. Okay. Let's just do right click on this page, and on this particular element, I want to find out. So let's do right click on this element. My cursor is here. Just do inspect. So like this, a network elements tab gets opened. Just expand it a bit and just look at it here. See, this is getting highlighted, right? And if I just do a mouse over on this particular tag, it is highlighting the text box. Okay. Now, if you see here, there is a ID called two tab search text box. So this is the ID for my element. So I'm going to copy it here. Okay. And this is the ID for this particular text box. So if I do Control F here, and if I just paste it, you can see it is giving me two matches, right? One is for the label and one is for the input. But I want to identify only the input box, right? So what am I going to do? I am going to say, okay, like this way, I'm going to say input. So don't worry if you don't know about the syntax. I'm going to explain you all of the concepts. But just to show you all that's how to identify a value, I'm going to form a XPath. See, this is the XPath which I've formed, and now I can get only one value. So I'm going to explain all these concepts. So for now, I'm just putting the XPath here. Okay. And ID basically is this value, whatever we have found out. This is the value for ID. Okay. And we are going to enclose all these values within a single apostrophe. Okay. So what happens is that we have a concept of WebDriver, right? So when we try to write syntax, it will be like driver.find element by.id. This is how we write the syntax. And here we are going to write within single apostrophe this value. This is how it is getting used in our automation script. Okay. So this is how it gets used. So this is how we identify an element by using its ID property. This is the ID attribute of this tag. This tag name is called input. Okay, if you see every tag is name is having after this less than symbol, this tag name appears, right? So this is the label tag. This is the input tag. Likewise, if you want to identify the search tag, just take this thing here, and you can see when I hover on this tag name, it is highlighting it. It is an input tag. Again, I'll go back to my text box. Okay. Now, apart from ID, what is the other attributes you can see here? You can see there is a type attribute. There is value is currently blank. Then there is a name attribute, which is having a value field hyphen keywords. So let's copy. Let's say I want to identify an element using name. So I'm going to say name equal to field hyphen keywords. Let's look at it again. Field hyphen keywords. Yeah, it's correct. You just have to enclose it within single apostrophe. Okay, so let's do one thing. Let's just try to use this way, and we need to put star here. Yeah, so you can see that we have still been able to identify an element using the field keyword. So what I'm going to do, let me take out all these things. Okay, I'll just keep the value, and you can see we are still able to find the match. So this is how with the name we can also identify an element. So I've given the exact value for the name attribute, and I'm going to put that thing here. Okay. So if you try to identify a value through name, okay, so how you can use it in your driver one. Okay, let me increase the zoom size. So I'll also just try to have the same size across my examples, right? Yeah. So this is how we can identify an element through ID and name. So we have looked at two types of locators so far, ID and name. That's all it is. You just have to identify an element through its attribute. So far we have taken the ID and the name attribute. Let's look at the next one, which is class. Do you see any class here? Yes, right? If you go to the right hand side, you can see there is a class. So copy this value and paste it over here. And you can see we are able to get two matches from, right? It is the common class for the text box as well as the search box. So this is how you can identify an element through class name. So we have a way to do that. We can say find element by dot class name. Okay, and just put the value here. That is all. This is how you identify an element using the class attribute. but the attribute should be always unique. So you can see that there are multiple class attributes here. So we want to identify the one which we want to be identified. Let's say I want to identify the text box. Okay. If you see, this is also input tag, this is also input tag, right? So we are not able to identify this element using only the class, right? So there are other ways we will look at how we can form XPath and other types of locator. But for now, just think of this way that using class also you can identify an element. But how to uniquely identify, we will take the help of XPath later on. Okay. The next type is link text. Link text means, as the name suggests, it's a hyperlink. Okay. So think of this that in this page, where are hyperlinks? So if you want to identify hyperlink, just type the tag name anchor tag. So let me put this way, anchor tag. You can see these are all the hyperlinks. A, href equal to, these are called hyperlinks, like about Amazon, carriers, etc. Let's take any one of them. Let's say about Amazon. Let me remove this one for now. Let me take this cursor and inspect this one. Yeah. Let's say I want to inspect this Amazon Pay on merchants. Okay. I have done right click and I've done inspect. You can see here that this is a anchor tag or a hyperlink, and it is having a URL to which when you click on this Amazon Pay on merchants, it is going to redirect the new page onto this particular website. Okay. So what is anchor tag? Anchor tag means that whatever is a link text means the text shown to the user, you are able to identify an element using the link text. So I can simply say driver dot find element by dot link text. Just look at this actually. When you say link text, the first letter is small, second letter is capital for the word, right? And then you need to simply put the value like this and then semicolon. So this is how we are able to identify an element using the link text. Now, what is partial link text? It is a similar type as link text, but we don't have to give the complete value. You can just say Amazon Pay. Let's have a look. So let's say if I want to find out how many of the elements have only Amazon Pay. So there are currently three elements which have Amazon Pay. So if I say on, I have only one, right? So this is partially trying to match our link text without entering the entire value. We have skipped merchants word here, but still we are able to identify one unique match using the partial link text. So this is the partial link text example. So I'll come again here, driver dot find element by dot partial link text and try to put the value here. And this all would be starting with small because your variable, I'm assuming you have created a variable of a WebDriver. Okay, like this. So there is a syntax to follow. So in case you are new to Selenium, you can look at my playlist on Selenium tutorials. So let's say you're creating a WebDriver variable like this here, new Chrome driver. Imagine I'm trying to do this entire thing in Chrome. Okay. And then I've tried to get Amazon.in, right? www.amazon.co.in, like this. All of this is how we are going to load the page. So we have reached the home page, right? And I'm not doing all the other things here, but I just want to tell you all that how we normally get started. WebDriver.chrome.driver, and then we set the path of Chrome driver, right? This is how it actually happens. And that's how we get started. Okay, so I'm trying to come to a place where I'm trying to explain you all each and every type of locator in Selenium. So we have covered so far ID, name, class, link text, right? We have covered partial link text. Now let's come to the next one, which is tag name. So you can look at this tag, right? It's an anchor tag. So if I want to find out an element by using tag name, I can also go for li, I can go for anchor tag, etc. So if I simply write a, okay, I'm using double forward slash because it will try to find out a. If I write only a, right, it is going to find out a text a in every HTML portion, which I don't want. So just to show you all, I'm writing this way, double forward slash a. So I want to focus on this anchor tag. So how many anchor tags are there? There are 387 anchor tags present in the current page. Okay. So tag name, if you want to write, you will say driver dot find element by dot tag name. Like this is a syntax for tag name. Okay. So I'm covering the very basic types of locators currently, and then I'll go on to the more complicated ones. Okay, a CSS selector, I'll start with very basics one. I'll not go too much into depth. Just imagine that you want to identify an element using the very basic types. So I'm just covering only the basic ones right now. So let's say I want to identify an element through CSS selector. Okay, for the same element, let's say carriers page, right? So what I can do is I can simply use the dot operator like this anchor tag, and I can use this nav underscore a. So I can say tag name dot nav underscore a. So it is having 33 locators or 33 anchor tags made basically, which are having this particular CSS selector. So how did I create the CSS selector? So the syntax goes this way. You need to write tag name dot operator and then class name. So in this example, what is the tag name? Tag name is anchor tag, right? Tag name is anchor tag. Then you need to use a dot operator. And what is the value for the class attribute? It is nav underscore a. So using this way, I can identify an element through CSS selector. Now, if I remove this a, still I'm able to access it, right? So without the tag name also, we can do it. So there are two types of syntax. Either you can use tag name or you can also directly go for dot class name. So this is the first example. And the next example is directly say dot nav underscore a. So this is the example of how we can identify an element through CSS selector using class attribute. Now let's say if I want to identify through ID. So this is using ID. This is using class name. Then how do we identify that? There is no ID currently here, right? So let's go above and let's try to look at some other element. Let's inspect, let's say Amazon Pay. Does this have an ID? There is no ID attribute here. Okay, let's look at maybe this one. There is no ID attribute. Okay, let's look at cart or returns and orders. Just trying to identify some element which has an ID. Yeah. So let's say here this anchor tag, which is a hamburger type of icon. See, the ID is hamburger menu. Okay. I want to identify this element not through just the ID, but using CSS selector. So I can simply say hash symbol, which is going to represent the value for ID, and just paste this value, which is for hamburger, right? And you can see we have been able to identify an element through CSS selector. So just copy this and okay, this is by class name. Here by class name, and this is by ID. So syntax goes this way. You need to write, right? Syntax goes this way. You need to write and then ID value. Okay, and paste it here. Okay. And another way to do is that you just write tag name, use pound symbol, and then ID value. So let's take an example. So let's say the anchor tag we need to use. We need to use a tag name. Just put a before it, and you are still being able to identify this element through anchor tag, right, to CSS selector. So this is the concepts we have seen so far. A very simple, straightforward way of creating locator with different types of ways to do it. Right? We have seen the CSS selector very basic types so far. That is ID and class. We will go into deep of CSS selector a little later on. We will go sequentially. First, we are now looking at different types of locator. Then we will look at the XPath because we have seen so far 7 types of locator. Now, the important part which we are going to start off with is the XPath. Now, XPath can be of two types. Either you can have an absolute XPath or you can have a relative XPath. So we'll cover both. Let's start from the absolute XPath. Okay, what do you mean by absolute XPath? So let's say you have this HTML portion on the elements tab, right? So if I want to, let's say, identify some element, let's take in this particular page example that let me collapse this head. I don't want the head for now. Okay, let's say some element here, bestsellers or something like that, I want to identify. So if I start from this way in HTML, okay, go to body, okay, in body, if I want to see what elements are there, let's say I want to go inside a div tag, okay. So there are currently 4 div tags. If I try to collapse them, I can show it to you all. See, this is one div tag. This is another div tag, right? So there are 4 div tags under the body. Let's just see. So if you want to look at the matches found, right? See, these are the 4 matches found. Let me show you one by one. This is the first div tag, which is a hyphen page. Then the second div tag is this one, which is the root pop over hyphen root. Then we have menu container, and then we have this add, which is getting shown, right? So these are the different ones. And if you want to go deep inside it, like that. So this is the way how you can identify an element through a absolute XPath. If you want to identify an element through absolute XPath, you start from the HTML tag onwards. This is the absolute XPath, which has only one backward slash. Okay. Now, the problem with this kind of approach is that, let's say in between a developer adds some particular tag or some particular tag in between is removed and you had given this path in your automation script. But what if this div is actually preceded by input? Then div comes. So your locator will not work right in future because this locator has changed because of the code change or the kind of design change by the developer from a UI perspective, right? So in order to avoid these kind of challenges or issues, we came up with a alternative strategy called relative XPath. So in relative XPath, what happens is you don't have to give a complete hierarchy of the path of the web element. We can just say, okay, it can be anywhere. It should just be that, okay. So for example, it should be after body div. Means in this current web page, wherever body is present, just reach out to div. Or if you don't want to worry about in between tags which are present here, just you can also put a double forward slash here. Okay, I'll explain when we use double forward, when we use one forward slash later on. But think of this way that you don't want to worry about what's happening before a particular element. Let's say I just want to reach body div. I don't want to worry about what is in between here. Or let's say I don't want to worry about what is till body also don't want to worry. Let's say I want to just right away reach out to div whose at the rate ID equal to, let's just check it out, right? Let's say hey hyphen page. I want to directly reach out to a hyphen page. I don't want to worry about what is before this div tag or after the div tag, etc. So I can simply write this HTML in this locator with double forward slash indicating that this is a relative XPath. Okay. I want to find out this element anywhere in the current web page, wherever this tag name is matching and its attribute ID is having the value a hyphen page. Okay. So this is how we give an example of a relative XPath. Right. And I've given an example just before. We saw that the 2 tab search text box, we had the double forward slash, then the tag name, and then an attribute identifying what is the value for the respective attribute, which is ID equal to 2 tab search text box. Okay. So let's start with detailed XPath coverage, and I'll try to go slowly and cover all the concepts with an example. And I think you should be able to understand. Let's say that I want to identify an element using text method. So if I just inspect this, let's say element, never before offers on appliances. So this is an element. If you see, it's a tag, h2 tag, which is used basically in CSS kind of languages, right? We are trying to use it for formatting purpose, and we are trying to use the h2 tag for that. This is the text of the element. Okay. So if I simply copy it and paste it here, you can see we are getting only one match form. So if I want to identify an element using the text, we have a method called text method. So write the tag name, write text equal to, and since I want to identify an element through a text and using the tag name, I'm simply putting this double forward slash for the XPath. So what is the syntax for XPath? Put double forward slash, the tag name, then use this text method equal to, and enclose the value within apostrophe. So let me copy it and put it in a Word document. So I'll come to this contains thing later on. First, I'll just start with text method. Let's say this is an example, right? I want to mention to you all. So let me show you the syntax for it. Syntax goes this way. You need to write double forward slash tag name, use text method as it is, and then provide the value within this single apostrophe, and then close this rectangular bracket. So you can see this example, what I've mentioned here. Second variety of this contain text is actually with using contains. Okay. So using contains also we can do it. So let me show you that now. So rather than writing text equal to, I can also write contains, start a parenthesis here. Okay. Remove this equal to sign, put this comma, and before your rectangular bracket ends, put and just complete the parenthesis part, and that is it. See, now I can also remove this appliances also, and see, still it is able to give me match because this text is matching. Let's remove on also, still it is matching because this is unique text. Nowhere else it is appearing, only this, for this particular element it is appearing. So this is how we use the contains method. Okay, let's again look at the syntax part. Syntax goes this way: tag name, use contains, then say text method, comma, enclose the value within the single apostrophe, close the parenthesis and close the rectangle bracket. Okay, and let's complete. This is the second one, contains with text. Now the third one is called starts with. Okay, I've given an example here that you have to mention this kind of a syntax. Okay, so let me directly show you all. Yeah. Okay, let's say instead of contains, I want to use starts with. Look at this, right? I have not done any other change. I have just changed contains with, or replace contains with starts hyphen with. And you can see that it is trying to identify the element whichever are having the text starting with up to 75% off. Let me do one more thing. Let me remove this other portion. Let me keep only up to 75% off. So there are two matches from now. See, one is this element and other is somewhere below up to 75% off for refurbished products. So if you want to use starts hyphen with, you can also use with the text method. So this is one example where we can use it. So I'm going to put here example one with text method also you can use it in this way. Syntax is very simple. Put starts hyphen with, then whatever is the attribute name value. This was one way. Or the other example which we just saw now is that you can also use with the text method and then enclose the value inside the single apostrophe. These are the two syntaxes for a starts with. Let's have a look at some other example. Let's say this particular A card UI hyphen footer. I want to start using starts with this one. So I'm going to copy this value. I'm going to paste it over here. Okay, just a minute. What we are going to do here is that we are going to start identifying this element whose attribute class starts with this one, right? So here you can say starts with, what is that you want to check starts with? You want to check for the attribute, right? So you want to check for the attribute. So just say starts with class. And here this will be changed to div. And it should be at the rate here. Yes. So this is the way we can identify or use starts hyphen with. So what we have done here, what attribute, the class attribute, with what value it is starting with this particular value. So copy this one and paste it over here. So this is the way how we can use it also for different types of attributes. The starts with method. Okay. And now we look at the fourth type, which is XPath chaining, and it's a very simple one. So let's say that you have got multiple types of attributes and you want to identify an element using multiple attributes. So let's say fashion, for example. Here you have got class. You also have got href, right? You also have got text. But for now, I'm going for href and class, let's say. So you can do one thing. Copy this, double click on this. Let me double click on it. Let me remove this one. See, like this, you can double click. Like this, we can double click. Okay. So I'm going to just say href nav hyphen a, right? This is one thing. So I'm going to say at the rate href equal to this particular value. I'm going to enclose within single apostrophe. This is one attribute, and the other one is class. So I'm going to say at the rate class equal to nav hyphen a. Yeah, and it is not able to give us a match because there is a space here. Do you see there is a space here? That's why we did not get a match. So in order to get the match, just paste the entire value, including space. And now you can see we have got the match form, right? So this is how we can identify an element through combination of multiple attributes, which is called XPath chaining, right? At XPath attribute chaining. So this is what all locators we have covered so far in our one masterclass session. So I'll create a part 2 of this masterclass where I'll be covering the remaining types of XPath methods, including XPath access and all the different types of CSS selector. So stay tuned for that particular video and do subscribe to my channel if you have not done yet. Thank you so much.